It wouldn't be fair for Lamborghini to give the SVJ treatment to the Aventador without doing something similar for its younger sibling, the Lamborghini Huracan. I'm Nima from MVL Leasing, and this is a 2022 Lamborghini Huracan STO. So what does STO stand for? STO stands for Super Trofeo Omologata, which is Italian, basically denoting the fact that this car was made for homologation in order to compete in the GT3 racing class. Right off the hop, you can tell that there's a lot of differences with this car over and above your standard Huracan. So we're gonna start here at the front end. Everything about this car is extremely track oriented, even more so than the SVJ. Everything is designed for competition. In fact, it only fulfills the most basic legal requirements in order to be driven on the street. It sucks in the cold and it sucks in the wet. You only need nice weather to drive this car in. Once we get down here, you can see there's a lot of aerodynamic features down here. You have all your radiators and stuff back here that are protected with the plastic grille over top because you're probably going to be hitting a lot of debris coming at you on the track. This whole front end looks very similar to what you have on a normal Huracan, but it's not. It's actually all one piece of carbon fiber. So let's just open it up so I can show you what I mean. Now, although it shares the same basic shape as a regular Huracan, there's some very important differences up here. The car actually sucks in air through that main air dam and brings it up through here and expels it out the hood. This is to create less drag and make the car more aerodynamic and provide more downforce. Here you can see that this whole front clip is all made of one piece of carbon fiber. And this is all done to accommodate those extra aerodynamic features I was telling you about. So where you would normally have a decently sized front trunk for a Huracan, all you have is this little box right here. This is the extent of your front storage. So with the hood in this position, you can see that this is all one piece. Again, I told you it's done for aerodynamics and things like that, but it also makes the car extremely light. You don't have separate fenders and a hood and a bumper when it's all one piece, less welds, things like that. So even though this is an Huracan STO, it shares very few parts with a standard Huracan. Headlights are one, the doors are another, the mirrors are another. Beyond that, everything is completely different. So we'll start over here. Your front wheels here have these nice carbon fiber louvers that are built into your fenders, which are actually attached to your hood that I was just showing you. So this helps with less drag and aerodynamics. Really nice touch too. When we get down here, a lot of important stuff here. These wheels are specific to the STO. They're made of magnesium, okay? So they're extra durable and they're extra light. They're center locking wheels. That's something that's part and parcel to a race car. Now, these carbon ceramic brakes may look a lot like the ones you get on a standard Huracan, but they're not. It's a revised carbon ceramic braking system by Brembo called CCMRs that operate better with heat dissipation and brake fade, all designed for the track. So when you have CCMR, a braking system by Brembo can be used on the street and the track, and they're basically designed to be able to carry more punishment. The internal venting is different, and there's a lot of other smaller details that make them able to withstand more abuse, which is really what you're doing to this car. One convenient feature that this car has, which is pretty much just for the street, is your front axle lift. You don't want to damage that front bumper. Very expensive to replace, so it's a really nice feature to help you get in and out of driveways and things like that. The tire on this car. Now, normally Lamborghini relies on Pirelli in order to make tires for their cars. So this tire is made by Bridgestone. It's a Bridgestone Potenza, and it's got the Lamborghini logo on it, so it was designed specifically for this car. This tire is designed to shine on the track and basically fulfill the minimum requirements to be driven on the street. They're quieter and their compound is slightly different. Not really sure why they didn't go with Pirelli on this one, but it really helps this car on a circuit. Now this car is a 22, and these decals that you see on the car are all from the factory at Lamborghini. Being a 22, it was probably ordered in 21, which was kind of a COVID year. So it was during a time when some options weren't available or some options were extremely limited. So I know that when this particular car was ordered, it was lucky in order to be able to get these decals. You're gonna see a lot of Huracan STOs out there that don't have any of these decals. I think it actually looked kind of slick with no decals, but the fact that they were so hard to get at the time as a factory option kind of make this car a little bit more special. This car is a matte black color. This car is covered in PPF to protect that paint, because when you scratch matte paint, there's no buffing, there's no polishing, no blending or anything. You have to repaint that panel. So I would encourage anyone who has matte paint on any car to get full PPF to make it more scratch resistant. Once you start coming towards the back here, you're gonna see an array of vents, okay? Now, this one here actually directs air through to a hose to cool your rear brakes. These inlets here, these go into the intake for one of your cylinder banks, the other one being on the other side, obviously. And just on the other side of this vent that collects air is a heat exchanger. So all the wheels are 20-inch. You have a different profile back here. You have 305 tires back here. But the one interesting thing about the STO is it's the most powerful version you can get, 631 horsepower, but it's rear-wheel drive. Now, that's done for a couple reasons. When you're on a circuit, rear-wheel drive can really help. It also helps weight reduction. This car is actually 95 pounds lighter than the Huracan Performante, and the Huracan Performante was about 100 pounds lighter than the standard Huracan. This really helps on a circuit when it comes to weight and things like that, but when you have a car that's rear-wheel drive, sometimes things can get a little hairy. So a way to keep the car in control and be a little bit more poised in certain corners is by offering rear-wheel steering. And that's a really nice feature that this STO has. So it's not a whole lot of degrees, but just enough to help keep the car planted. Now with this particular STO, a lot of trim pieces are highlighted in a gloss red. So the tips of your spoilers that kind of fold in at the bottom, your rear diffuser, your front splitter, and your side skirt extensions. This is all for ground effects, downforce, aerodynamics, things like that. But the one thing that demands attention on this car is this snorkel up here. Now, this being a track-focused car, you don't have a regular engine cover that has glass. This is all one-piece carbon fiber, requires a special key in order to unlock and be completely removed in order to work on the engine and whatnot. Now, the one thing that I think is interesting is that this appears to be an air intake snorkel. So this would take air that's rushing over the top of the car and almost force it into the engine. But this particular snorkel is not connected to the air intake system. Your air intake inlets are actually on the sides. So I'm not sure what purpose this serves. I think it looks amazing. Maybe in the comments you guys can help me figure out what the purpose of this is. All I can figure out is that maybe it helps cool the engine because it takes air from the outside, forces it into the engine, and there's lots of openings at the back of the engine bay in order to dispel all that hot air. That's what I think it is, but if you guys think otherwise, please let me know. This spoiler is a fixed spoiler, but it does have some mechanical adjustment. In the SVJ video for the Aventador, I went over Lamborghini's ALA system, their active aerodynamics. Now in GT3 racing class, active aerodynamics are not allowed to be used. You can have adjustable aerodynamics, but it can't be active. The rear spoiler on this has a few settings that you need a special key in order to adjust its angle. Now, this is really important depending on what circuit that you're on. Some circuits have more straightaways, some circuits have more curves. And Lamborghini even understands that not everything happens in a straight line. Races are won in the corners. So depending on how the racetrack is set up with the elevation, the bends, the apexes, and things like that, every track is different. So every track requires specific adjustment in order to make the car shine the most on that particular circuit. This kind of has like a gooseneck spoiler here. These are made of steel that are connected to the body, and the spoiler almost hangs off of it. This spoiler has a spoiler. This is another spoiler attached to the main spoiler, and these winglets also help keep the air contained. This snorkel that we were pointing out earlier also has this vertical fin attached to it that's made of carbon fiber. So the purpose of this is to help the car stay more composed in a bend. So it kind of prevents air from going side to side on the back of the car when you're at speed, and basically helps stability in a corner. That's the purpose of it. So now that we're at the back end of the Huracan, you can see that everything has a purpose and looks extra wild. All the heat shields that surround the exhaust system. You'll notice there's a lot of venting back here. You have these holes where you can see your tire tread. You have this nice grill here right behind your exhaust system. You have vents here beneath your third brake light. It's fully open right beneath your tail lights. This is all designed to expel heat from the engine bay, because when this car is at the limit, it develops a lot of heat, and on the track, heat is the enemy. So you need a lot of ways to kind of dispel that using the air that's already flowing around the car and over the car. The floor, or the underside of this car, is actually different. It's still completely flat like a normal Huracan, but it's actually optimized for airflow. Another dead giveaway that you're looking at a Huracan is the fenders. So the fender here, which is actually built into the hood, has these fins. This is all to direct air. It's probably most pronounced on your rear fender, which is normally very smooth, but you have this nice fin here that kind of helps the car cut through the air, but namely to direct air into these intakes. Even the opening here where it kind of tapers out like this kind of increases airflow to those intakes to kind of force air into them. The faster you go, the better that they work, the more efficient they are. So the STO comes with this special key that's actually stored right by your left leg in the driver footwell, and you need that in order to open these mechanisms that allow you to open that front clamshell hood that I was showing you, and also to pull this engine cover off. Very pretty engine bay in this car. Once we have the engine cover off, it kind of exposes all the fun stuff in here. So you have this crossbar for rigidity. The Performante and the STO models, they all get this really nice valve cover. Standard Huracans, I'm pretty sure it's just black, but I think it's a really nice touch. A couple things I can notice off the hopping in here is that you have a revised intake system. It takes in air a similar way that a Huracan does, but these look like new air boxes to me. And I would imagine that these air boxes are bigger in order to accommodate a larger volume of air and probably a slightly larger or differently designed air filter. Now, when you have a naturally aspirated engine, there's only so many things you can do to increase power. This engine in its weakest form is probably 580 horsepower. In its strongest form is 630 to 640. The only other advantage that these cars have would be weight and aerodynamics in order to increase their capability. So the STO is rated at about, I believe, 631 horsepower. But it's got the strongest aero of any of the other Huracans in the lineup, just over the Performante, which on its own is a very, very well-designed car in terms of aerodynamics and power. It has almost 40% less drag and just over 50% more downforce. So these numbers, they all really make a difference when you're on the track, which is where this car is meant to be. A couple of the things that I wanted to point out back here that I think are really important. Now, when the Huracan was first introduced, a lot of people thought that the design was actually a little bit too calm, not crazy enough. And one thing that all Lambos have that garner a lot of attention is the spoiler. But Lamborghini, when they introduced the Huracan in 2014 as a 2015 car, they said the spoiler is integrated into the bodywork. We're going to show you a shot of a standard Huracan and how the back end kind of has the spoiler that's built in. It's not active, doesn't move, but still provides significant downforce. Now, when it comes to the STO, it still has that, but even more. This part that comes off of your rear fender sticks out even more and comes to even more of a point. Beneath this giant spoiler, you get the same treatment relative to a regular Huracan, just more, and it comes out like it's an extra wing. So right now, when you're looking at this thing, it almost has 3 wings. 1, 2, 3. So right when you hop in here, a lot of the things that you look at just scream, let's race. The steering wheel in an STO is a slightly different shape and it's stitched in Alcantara. This particular one has red stitching here. This is all selectable when you're configuring the car. The whole dash is in Alcantara as well, with little red leather accents in the middles of the seats where your armrest is and your little door grips. So these door grips, there's no door handles anymore. Your door card is all one piece of carbon fiber. This is done in matte. I think it looks really nice. The way that you open your door is you pull this little tether that actuates your door, and the way you close it is just by pulling this door pull right there. That's all done for lightness. Full Alcantara roof liner. The really nice part about these STOs are the seats. Now, these are all carbon fiber. Unlike the SVJ, they're fully mechanical. This allows you to sit lower. They're extremely bolstered. The only materials used to make these are carbon fiber and Alcantara. A little bit of leather, just for some design. You have this big lever that goes in between your legs. It says scancio on it, which is Italian for release. So when you do this, you can move the seat forward and back. I've said before, when you have mechanical seats, you don't need electric motors to adjust the seat, so the seat can sit lower and the car is lighter, which is a big deal when it comes to a car that you're making that it's designed for the track. No carpets really. You kind of have this kind of mats, but they're made of aluminum that go over the floor carpeting. Not as much exposed carbon as there is in the Aventador, but still very minimal design. So this is an option, believe it or not. It got the cup holder option. So at least you have somewhere to put your coffee or a water bottle or I don't know what. This isn't even all that deep. It's almost just like to do it to say that they offer it. With the STO, it has the same infotainment that was introduced with the Huracan Evo, which was much needed. So now you have, it's almost kind of like a tablet with a lot of touch sensitive buttons. You can use this to control your climate, your music, your navigation and things like that. So you really have just 2 screens in this car, your digital instrument cluster and this. And you can take a lot of the information that is shown to you on your central screen here and have that information to be transposed into your instrument cluster. You have your traditional Huracan, or Lamborghini start-stop button. That's a nice feature. Hope they never get rid of that. On the steering wheel, this is where you do all your drive adjustments or your drive mode adjustments. So there's 3: STO, Trofeo, and Pioggia. Pioggia is rain. So that's the rain setting. Trofeo, which is Italian for trophy, which kind of implies racing and things like that. That's probably the most aggressive one. And STO, believe it or not, is actually like your most ordinary setting, probably your tamest setting that you can have in this car. So things that change when you do that is your adjustable dampening on your suspension and the manner with which that the car changes gears. The rear differential is different in STOs than they are in normal Huracans. It vectors torque differently and basically is able to preload each side like during turn-in. So the car has a lot of sensors and whatnot that help you determine that, and this all helps you kind of get out of those turns a little bit better. It does it extremely well considering it's a rear-wheel drive car. Like, you can slide these cars pretty nicely, although on a circuit sliding doesn't really help. My point is, it does a really good job of putting all of the power, all 631 horsepower, down to those 2 wheels and transmitting that power to the pavement in an efficient way without just scrubbing your tires. All right, let's hear it. We didn't have a lot of time today, and I feel like I hardly scratched the surface when it comes to highlighting all the important details that make this STO special. If you have any other questions about the car, feel free to email me, neema@mbl.ca. Don't forget to like and subscribe.